In 2004, retired couple Thomas and Jackie Hawks decided to sell their yacht after years of enjoying life at sea. They received an inquiry from a young man who claimed to be a former child actor, and he was interested in purchasing the boat. Now, initially, the man and his pregnant wife seemed like a really nice couple who were wanting to buy this boat, and the Hawks saw this as an opportunity for their yacht to bring joy to another family, as it did with theirs. Unfortunately, the truth was that this man's only real success as an actor was making other people believe that he and his wife were genuine people. You see, Thomas and Jackie had no way of knowing that this couple's real intentions were actually far more sinister than just buying a yacht for their growing family. Hey guys, I am Elise. Welcome back to another episode of Dark Chapters, where we go over some of the truest, darkest, and deepest true crime cases out there. And we are going to jump right into today's.
Dark Chapters.
57-year-old Thomas Charles Hawks, who went by Tom for short, was born in Los Angeles, California. He had one older brother named Jim, and their family soon moved off to a farm in Cardiff, which is actually a small town in San Diego County. Now, growing up, Tom was always well-liked in school, and was even voted best looking in his senior yearbook. He loved everything that was involved with the ocean, he was an avid surfer, and he even built his own 14-foot boat to sail alone to Catalina Island in. He was all about the ocean, all about being on the water. After high school, Tom worked as an Air Force security police officer and also worked as a firefighter. This was before marrying his first wife, Dixie, in 1972. They had their first son, Ryan, in 1976 and another son named Matthew in 1978. But ultimately, the couple didn't work out. It wasn't a happy ending and a happy ever after, and they ended up getting divorced. Soon after the split, Tom actually ended up getting full custody of his sons, and he began raising them largely on his own as a single father. Now, in the mid-'80s, he and the boys moved to Arizona, where he started his career as a correctional officer. Tom wasn't the only member of the family either who got involved in law enforcement. You see, his brother Jim became a police officer and eventually the police chief in Carlsbad, California as well. And even though Tom wasn't making a fortune in his career, he was an incredible DIYer, do-it-yourselfer. He was said to be able to turn a dump into a mansion, and that's basically what he did with the home that he bought for him and his sons. It was just a small cabin, but Tom eventually quadrupled its size by adding 3 bedrooms, a gym, a sewing room, really making it a comfortable place to raise his family. So then in 1987, things were about to change in Tom's life, and he met a new woman, a new love interest as a matter of fact. Tom and his sons were attending a chili cook-off in their town of Prescott, Arizona, and there, Tom helped a beautiful grocery store clerk named Jackie get some Haagen-Dazs ice cream. She was in a wheelchair at the time, still recovering from a motorcycle accident that had happened 20 months earlier. So, being the amazing man that Tom was, he wanted to help her out. So 47-year-old Jackie was born in Lake Erie, and she moved to Arizona after high school, where she had first met and married her first husband, Lester Newell. Jackie and Lester were married for 11 years, and they really had these huge dreams of living on a boat one day. They also loved to ride motorcycles, which was what they were doing just a few days after Christmas in 1985. Jackie was on the back of Lester's Harley when a drunk driver crashed into them head-on. Lester put himself between Jackie and the truck, and he was unfortunately killed on impact. The wreck damaged Jackie's left leg and twisted her pelvis, which tragically made her incapable of conceiving children. She had to go back home to Ohio for 4 months so that her parents could take care of her, but when she recovered enough to live on her own, she returned back to Arizona. And just over a year later, after returning to Arizona, is when she met Tom Hawks at that cook-off in Prescott. Now, Jackie was in no way expecting to connect with someone after the trauma that she went through, but she and Tom, they hit it off right away. So for the next few months, he would bring her surprises, bring her Haagen-Dazs, he would pop by, do all of these things trying to really swoon her, trying to win her over. And if she ever wasn't home, he would actually leave the empty ice cream carton outside of her house with a note teasing her about how she missed out. She loved the fact that he was a jokester, and even though she couldn't have imagined finding love again, she unexpectedly fell for Tom. And they actually had quite a bit in common as well, and Tom also had a dream of one day living on a boat, just like she did. So after 2 years of dating, Tom and Jackie got married on July 29th, 1989, and they had over 100 people attend their wedding. Everyone who knew them said that they had never seen two people more in love with each other. Jackie had always wished that she could have children of her own, so the fact that Tom had 2 sons without a constant mother figure just really made the situation even more perfect for her. Ryan and Matt actually even began referring to Jackie as mom, and that's really what she became, and the piece that was missing in their entire family just seemed to fit, and it completed their family. So Jackie and Tom had more in common than their long-term dream of retiring on a boat one day. They loved to work out daily, and Tom even participated in amateur bodybuilding competitions and arm wrestling tournaments. They always owned a powerboat, and they took the boys out on the water all the time. They were both known as the life of the party, and from the photos, you could see just the happiness that they both exuded. While working as a grocery store cashier and a corrections officer, by no means were the Hawks a rich family. But with Tom and Jackie's ability to pinch pennies, live frugally, and invest in a few properties, they were able to accrue enough money to live more than comfortably. They've been referred to as a financial guru's example couple, and eventually saved enough to retire early. By the time Tom was in his early 50s and Jackie in her early 40s, their sons, Matt and Ryan, were basically out on their own. They had been carefully planning and saving for retirement, and they decided that they didn't want to waste any more time not living their dream. So, after extensive research, they sold their home, added the profit to their savings account, and they used that money to purchase a $300,000 55-foot yacht. It wasn't the fanciest by any means, but it was their dream, and they were making it a reality. The yacht needed some work, which ended up costing around $50,000 more, but Tom, being a handyman, did all of the improvements himself. So by the time the yacht was to their liking, Tom and Jackie gave it a name that fit perfectly: the Well-Deserved. After working so hard to make their dream come true, that's exactly what it was. The Well-Deserved had 2 decks, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a galley. The interior was hand-carved teak wood, and Tom added racks for a kayak and a windsurfer. He geared it up with the latest electronics, a generator, and even a system that provided up to 400 gallons of clean water a day, all so that they could stay at sea for months at a time, living the dream. While Tom took care of the big maintenance, Jackie was the one who turned their boat into a home. You could definitely say that she ran a tight ship too, with everything having its own spot, and she just kept everything immaculate and meticulously clean.
Jackie's coming today. Got the boat all cleaned up, and I think I'm going to take a shower after I work out and shave my beard. Not a bad beard for 15 days, huh? So waiting to see her. This is Captain Tom Hawks and Well-Deserved. Jackie, hello.
Hi, honey. I'm so glad to be home.
She's home.
Man, this is scary.
I'm gonna go play some more.
Okay. Be careful, honey.
To learn the ins and outs of their new home, at first, Tom and Jackie took the Well-Deserved on short cruises along the coast, before eventually venturing to Cabo in Mexico. This is near the Mexican mainland, right off of the coast near Baja. So they dove for clams and scallops, they snorkeled, swam with whale sharks, and they loved to host old friends for parties and cruises in their home on the water.
Man, this is scary.
I'm gonna go play some more.
Okay. Be careful, honey. He's great. Almost got ya.
Here we are in the early morning. Jerry's skippering, we're listening to the news. And there's Big Jim. And we're gonna be doing some fishing here. Who's that guy up there? How's it going, Ryan? You have any fun?
Yeah, great time, San Diego.
Okay, this is Mike and I, and we're sitting back here in the back deck. This is Mike and I.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
How are you, sweetie?
While having fun, they still made sure to keep in close touch with their family by making frequent visits to the shore, phone calls as much as possible, and nearly daily emails using their satellite internet system. And even though they were usually on the move, one of their favorite places to dock was at the Lido Island Yacht Club in Newport Beach, California. They made tons of new friends with other yacht club members who thought of Jackie and Tom like a breath of fresh air. They were down to earth, they were less flashy and pretentious like some of the members from Old Money, and I can tell you, being here close to Newport Beach, it definitely gets a little stuffy at times, and they were really just like a breath of fresh air for everybody who grew up in the Newport bubble. For nearly 3 years, their life was basically just one big adventure. But in 2004, something more important than sailing was calling them back to shore. Like I mentioned before, after Jackie's motorcycle accident, she wasn't able to have children of her own. So when Tom's son Matthew and his wife Nicole were expecting their first child, Jackie was overjoyed at the thought of getting to help raise a baby. So after Matt's son Jace was born in August, when Jackie and Tom held him for the first time, that pretty much sealed the deal. That was it.
Say hi, Grandma. Say hi, Grandma. You gonna smile? Huh? You gonna smile? You're such a dog. Yes, you are. You're just a tiny little boy. Yeah. There's Grandpa holding his little grandboy. I love you, Grandpa. I miss you, Grandpa.
Yeah,
there's a smile for
tell me
Grandpa.
that. Tell me
Yeah,
that.
there's a smile for Grandpa. He loves you too. He misses you. Yeah.
Suddenly, being grandparents became the most important thing to them. Plus, they had also realized that living on and maintaining a yacht full-time was back-breaking work. It was not an easy feat by any stretch. So they decided that they were going to sell their beloved yacht, and they were going to move back to Arizona to be near their new grandbaby Jace. And they were just going to buy a smaller, lower-maintenance boat that they could use for fun. Not something to live off of, not something to make their lifestyle. Now, being the frugal people that they were, they didn't want to spend money for the assistance of a broker to sell the boat. So they decided to get it appraised and try to sell it themselves. Now, with all of the work that they had put into this boat, it was worth much more than they bought it for. And in the fall of 2004, they listed the yacht for sale in Yachting World magazine, and it was listed for $440,000. Pretty expensive boat. So while waiting for a potential buyer to contact them, Jackie began buying baby clothing and just really couldn't wait to move into this next chapter of their lives as grandma and grandpa. And they actually didn't have to wait too long either, because after the ad was published in early November, they got an almost immediate response. Initially, Tom was a little confused about the person inquiring about the yacht, however, because as I mentioned, Newport is known for its very wealthy residents. But at just 25 years old, this buyer was inquiring about this almost $500,000 yacht. And Tom wondered how such a young man could have been established enough to drop nearly $500,000 on a boat. But his confusion subsided when the potential buyer told him that he actually had been a successful actor as a child. You see, he was apparently going to use the money that he earned working as a kid to buy this boat for him and his wife and their baby. So meeting former or prospective actors is definitely not unheard of in California, and this young man had even talked to Tom about some of the roles that he had played. So he eventually came out to see the well-deserved, the beautiful yacht. And of course, given how much hard work Tom and Jackie had put into the boat, he was very impressed. It seemed like the sale was definitely going to happen. The only other thing they needed to do before he could commit was a test cruise on the water. You see, in the world of buying and selling boats, especially luxury yachts, it's apparently pretty similar to buying a car. Before somebody buys a car, they typically want to test drive it around to make sure that they like the feel of it, get an idea of the interiors, what all the gadgets are, and that's no different than buying a yacht apparently, just a little bit steeper of a price and on different terrain. So Tom and the potential buyer set up a day for the test cruise before he was on his way. Before saying goodbye to their pride and joy, Tom and Jackie wanted to have one last cruise together. Tom's brother Jim, his wife, and their friends had a final hurrah, and they set sail to Catalina before getting the boat ready to sell. And they made one amazing last memory on the boat that they had just poured so much love into for the last 4 years.
Jim, Donnie, Brian, and Vicky, this is our last trip to the island because we sold the boat. And we're all having a really good time.
Now she's filming us.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jackie.
I'm so glad you could join us on our last voyage on Well Deserved.
What are they calling?
Hi, Donnie.
Hi, Jackie.
We're having a hot dog fest
We
tonight?
are. We just put the buns on. They're warming up. Tom took over because he didn't like the way I was cooking.
I just wanted them cooked a little bit more.
See, his buns are cooking.
Okay, so this is our last cruising fiesta. Oh, hi, Jimmy.
Hi.
And it's
Look at his
Jimmy.
new shirt.
Oh, yeah, he bought this in
Dolphins.
Catalina because he was cold
Dolphins.
and he didn't have any clothes to wear. And there's our best buds, Vicky and Brian. Over there, they're enjoying this cruise with us too. And the Barbie's going, see it smoking over there?
Tom and Jackie confidently told their kids that the boat would more than likely be sold after the next weekend, and told them that they would let them know how it went after the test cruise with the potential buyer. However, when the weekend came, neither Ryan or Matt heard from their parents. Their best friend Donnie was actually supposed to help them move some things from the boat to Arizona, but he hadn't heard from them either. And Tom would have never stood up a friend, especially one who was supposed to be helping him with something as important as moving. So even though they were traveling free spirits, that was pretty strange, especially considering after baby Jace was born, Jackie wanted constant updates, constant pictures. So going from daily communication to nothing just wasn't like them. So since Tom's brother Jim lived close by, Ryan called his uncle and asked if he had seen or heard from his parents. But Jim hadn't heard from them since their final cruise to Catalina, and none of the friends, Ryan or Matt, knew to ask, had heard from them either. So after no one had heard from Tom or Jackie in over a week, Jim decided to head out to where the couple normally docked their boat to see if they were out there or if anybody knew what was going on, if anybody had seen them. When Jim arrived at their normal docking area on the Balboa Peninsula, Tom and Jackie's friend Carter Ford, who was the port captain of the Lido Yacht Club, was already there. And he was a little worried too because something about the way that their boat, the Well Deserved, was left just did not seem right. Remember, Tom and Jackie were meticulous about how they cared for their boat, and for lack of a better word, the way that it was left just looked sloppy, dingy. Tom and Jackie actually had a little dinghy boat that they usually tied to the dock, which would ferry them out to their boat in the peninsula. And the dinghy was lazily tied, and the motor was still in the water, which are two things Tom nor anyone with boating experience would ever do. So Jim rowed with Carter on his harbor cruiser out to the Well Deserved. And more seemingly, small details became glaringly obvious to Jim, who, remember, was a retired police chief. You see, for example, the green canvas that usually covered the nautical equipment was left halfway off, and the controls on the flying bridge of the deck were uncovered as well. There was even a towel just hanging out of one of the portholes, which is something that Jackie and Tom, who both had an incredible amount of pride in the appearance of the boat, would have never done. Jim also noticed that several of Tom's most valued possessions, like a custom surfboard and an expensive FM radio, were missing. Not only that, but the couple's silver Honda CR-V was not in the parking lot. So if Tom and Jackie were on land, somewhere in their car, they should have definitely had service to be able to call and tell someone where they were. Jim and their friend knew that something was off, so he left a note on the boat telling his brother, or if the boat had sold, the new owner, to call him. The next day, Jim would get a call, but it wasn't from Tom, and it wasn't from Jackie. All of those holiday bills are fresh on their way in the mail. You can guarantee it. And for a lot of us, that means that we are starting off the brand new year with even more debt. But here's a chance to actually start digging out of it, and my friends at PDS Debt can help you make a plan to be debt-free. PDS Debt has customized options for anybody who's struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or even medical bills. You see, PDS rolls all of your monthly payments into one low, interest-free monthly payment. So if you're making payments every single month on your debt and your balances aren't going down, this program is definitely for you. And everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies, and there's also no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit are accepted. Start the year off right by getting your debt in control, so you can save thousands in interest and fees and pay off your debt in a fraction of the time. And PDS Debt is offering our viewers a free debt analysis. It only takes 30 seconds. Head over to pds.com/10tolife to get your debt assessment today. The next day, Jim would get a call, but it wasn't from Tom and it wasn't from Jackie. It was from a woman named Jennifer De Leon, and she claimed that she and her husband had actually purchased the yacht from the couple about 10 days before. She said that they had purchased the yacht from the Hawks in cash, all cash purchase, and she had actually been trying to get a hold of them as well. She said they left several personal items on the boat that she wasn't really sure what to do with, and her husband needed to talk about how to change the fuel tanks as well. So Jennifer asked Jim to tell Tom and Jackie to give her a call whenever he got a hold of them. But Jim was still feeling pretty suspicious about all of this. He knew that one of their friends typically took care of their finances while they were traveling, and if they had just received a large amount of cash from selling the yacht, their accounts should obviously reflect that. However, their friend had told Jim that there wasn't any large amount of money put into their account, and actually none of their accounts had been touched at all for over a week. So this definitely solidified to Jim that something was wrong, and after discussing it with his nephews, he decided to contact the police department to file a missing persons report. The Newport Beach police began looking into Jackie and Tom's potential disappearance. There hadn't been any transactions on their bank account, and there was no cell phone activity, and they hadn't taken any flights. So police even checked hospitals in California, Arizona, Mexico, but still no luck. Detectives conducted a search on the Well-Deserved on November 27th, and on board, they found heavy-duty garbage bags and also a receipt for bleach that was dated November 17th. They knew that the last thing that the couple was said to be doing was going on that test cruise with the potential buyers for their yacht, so these items could have belonged to the new owners. They needed to speak with them because it was likely that they were the last ones to have any contact with Jackie and Tom. They knew that Jim already had contact with a woman named Jennifer De Leon, and after some research, they found out that she and her husband Skylar were living in Long Beach, which isn't far away. So the lead detective, named Dave Byington, set up a meeting with the couple, which happened to be at a church where they frequently volunteered. When the detective arrived at the church, he began speaking to this young couple. The De Leons were friendly, articulate, and seemed like they genuinely cared about where Tom and Jackie were as well. They explained their own attempts to contact the couple because of the items that were left behind and because they still had questions about the yacht's maintenance. The husband, whose name was Skylar, provided a thorough explanation of their boat purchase, and he assured the detectives that he had legal documentation of the sale and he was willing to show him if he wanted to see it. Now, at first glance, the paperwork looked to be legit, so Detective Byington started to feel less suspicious about this couple. And Skylar made an official statement for the investigation that he and Jennifer came across that listing in the Yacht magazine, and he arranged a test cruise near the coast. He says he brought along his accountant, also a notary, so that he could authenticate the sales documents, and after the test cruise, Skylar decided to buy the yacht, and everyone signed the necessary paperwork, and then he handed Tom a briefcase filled with $485,000 in cash. Skylar said that Tom had mentioned that they planned to buy a house in Mexico, but that they were supposed to come back later to get the rest of their items off the boat. However, after the couple drove away in their Honda CR-V, they never heard from them again, apparently. So Skylar provided the detectives with the official documents, which were properly signed. They were dated by both Tom, Jackie, and notarized as well. Detectives contacted the other people present during the sale, which was Skylar's friend named Alonzo and the notary public who notarized the documents. And they too corroborated Skylar and Jennifer's story of what took place. So even though everything seemed to be in order, after the detectives began looking more into Skylar's background, things again became a little more suspicious. The first thing that was a little off was that Skylar and Jennifer were living with their baby in a tiny cramped garage attached to Jennifer's parents' home. They were also in crippling debt. So how were they able to afford a nearly $500,000 yacht in cash, no less? Jennifer explained that as far as she knew, Skylar had savings from when he was a child actor. And the way she had described it, Skylar had some prominent roles, including on old hit kid shows like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and commercials, things like that. But like Skylar's upfront and honest demeanor, his acting career wasn't what it appeared to be, and that money that he used to buy this yacht wasn't anything that he had actually earned on his own. Born on August 12, 1979, Skylar was actually born John Jacobson Jr., and he was known by his family as Johnny. He was said to have a really tumultuous childhood growing up in Sun Valley, California. His parents were both cocaine addicts, and his father was even a prominent dealer, which led to him serving time in prison. However, before he was incarcerated, John Sr. was said to be extremely physically and emotionally abusive towards Johnny and his mother. Struggling with her addiction, his mom ended up leaving Johnny with his dad, and in addition to all of the abuse, possibly worst of all, he was said to have started making Johnny sleep with him naked in bed and began touching him inappropriately. To make money, John Sr. put Johnny into acting, and he was able to get some small roles in commercials, and later a slightly bigger extra role in a few episodes of Power Rangers. So then he began going by his stage name, Skylar. And his dad was apparently even hard on him in front of other adults during these acting gigs. While Johnny, now Skylar, did have dreams of becoming a successful actor, he wasn't able to memorize lines very well, and he never made it big. Despite the treatment from his father, his life was said to have improved when John Sr. remarried a woman named Lisa, who took custody of Johnny after his dad was put in prison. Then at 20 years old, Skylar enlisted in the Marines, but was ultimately dishonorably discharged after going on an unauthorized absence after only 15 months. So that's kind of how everything in Skylar's life seemed to go. Big aspirations, but never really able to follow through. He had dreams of saving enough money to buy a boat so that he could teach scuba diving or use it as a charter for fishing trips. And when he realized how expensive that would be, he thought that maybe he would start a business cleaning boat holes. There were also plans to go to nursing school, possibly become a realtor, but nothing just ever seemed to pan out with him. Skylar was jobless and lonely, and with nothing else much to do, he decided to join an online dating site. And in September of 2001, he was surprised when he got a message from a beautiful young woman named Jennifer. She messaged his screen name and she said, "Hello, Baja Skylar. I like your picture. Do you want to talk? I'm 21 and live in Long Beach. I'm cute and very athletic." I mean, a pretty forward message from a girl who had grown up in an extremely strict evangelical Christian household. Jennifer was born in August of 1981, and all of her friends and family described her as loving and loyal, but also a little naive and a little over-trusting. Her family were devout members of their church, but as a teen and into early adulthood, Jennifer was a little bit spoiled. She always wished that she was rich, like some of the other people that she knew where she grew up in Long Beach. In college, Jennifer played shortstop for the school's softball team, and then later she became a hardworking and successful hairdresser. Well, after meeting Skylar online, he told her all sorts of impressive stories, exaggerating his time in the Marines and his acting roles that he was a part of. And from the way that he described it, he had a really prominent role in the Power Rangers show, when in actuality, he only spoke of strangely. Skylar told Jennifer that he had been born intersex and that he needed to have an operation because his uterus was growing and becoming cancerous. Regardless, Jennifer's friends said that she trusted everything that Skylar said, and after meeting up for the first time at a shopping mall, their relationship quickly escalated. They were married only 2 weeks later, on September 22nd, 2001, and that's when they moved into that cramped garage behind Jennifer's parents' home. But she wasn't content by this. She wanted a life of luxury. She started pressuring Skylar to get a job, mostly because she wanted a bigger engagement ring, but also because she wanted to move into a place of their own. So they quickly racked up thousands and thousands of dollars in debt, with Skylar even buying Jennifer a $10,000 ring using a credit card. Now, even though Jennifer made good money doing hair, she and Skylar were both pretty irresponsible spenders. Always having been spoiled by her parents, they not only let Jennifer and Skylar live rent-free in their converted garage, but they also paid off $17,000 of their credit card debt as well. However, when Jennifer got pregnant with their first child, she immediately pressured Skylar to get more money quickly. So to satisfy Jennifer, he started committing small thefts, which eventually escalated into more serious crimes. After their baby was born, he was actually sentenced to a year in jail for armed burglary, but Jennifer's parents ended up paying $2,100 a month so that Skylar could attend a Seal Beach work furlough jail facility instead of traditional incarceration. And this was basically what is known as a pay-to-stay program. And with the monthly fee, low-risk offenders can leave to attend work or school and then return later in the evening for lockup, which actually, now that I say that totally reminds me, who was it? Growing up, I had somebody who did this. It was for a DUI, I think. They were going to be in jail for the DUI and they were able to be out. I can't remember. Sorry, I digress. But that is crazy that that's a thing. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Mental click out for a moment. So Skylar ended up completing his term in April of 2004. And in October, he and Jennifer decided to finance a $36,000 Toyota Highlander. This was for around $680 a month. But once again, they racked up nearly $50,000 worth of debt. This all to Skylar's grandparents, Jennifer's parents, and credit card companies. By November, their joint checking account was overdrawn by $52. And not only that, but Jennifer was also pregnant with their second child. So you can see why it would be pretty difficult for detectives to believe that Skylar and Jennifer had enough cash to buy Tom and Jackie's yacht. But there did seem to be legit paperwork, so what was the truth here? During an interview with police, Skylar told them that he wanted to be honest and said that after his last burglary, he hid the cash and then retrieved it once he was released from jail, hoping that he could use it to make a better life for his wife and their 2 young children. He thought that purchasing the yacht would be a good investment for his growing family.
I have a bunch of money that I have no way to spend. Right. And if I bring it here, I'm going to get in trouble. I can't really go to Mexico to spend it because I'm on probation.
Okay.
I'm kind of on a rock and a hard place.
I go, so you're legitimizing this money that was illegal, and he copped out basically to money laundering.
Even though, if you're smart, you would realize this is a form of money laundering. So due to Skylar's cooperation, the investigator said that they wouldn't be pursuing any charges for that at the time, since their only concern was finding Tom and Jackie. And with really no other options, the police and the couple's son, Ryan, went on Good Morning America, asking the public for help in locating Tom and Jackie's 1998 Honda CR-V.
You know, I think something's wrong. I think something's missing. I think something's really wrong. But, you know, my first priority is, to find about the whereabouts of my parents.
So once again, even though the story of Skylar and Jennifer and what they told to police seemed to check out, things again became suspicious when they attempted to withdraw money from Tom and Jackie's bank account. Now again, they had an answer for everything and pulled out a seemingly legit signed document. The document was a transfer of power of attorney for all of Tom and Jackie's assets. So when the detectives asked why on earth would they give somebody that they just met power of attorney, Skylar said that it was because he offered to help get all of their money transferred to Mexico, where they planned on buying that house.
You can't finance a house in Mexico unless you're a Mexican citizen or unless you're like established residency and you have a bank account and all that stuff.
So even though all of the sketchiness was adding up quickly, the notary public that they spoke to was reputable, and with documentation, there really wasn't anything they could do about any of this. However, that was until somebody saw that episode of Good Morning America, and they recognized the couple's vehicle. It was sitting outside of a home in Ensenada, Mexico, so detectives quickly headed down to speak to the homeowner. He ended up being an old surfing buddy of none other than Skylar De Leon. And he said that Skylar had actually given him the car and then was picked up by Jennifer and their baby and taken back to California. So the detective took DNA swabs and prints from inside the CRV, which turned out to be a match for Skylar. So if Skylar, his friend, and the notary had just watched Jackie and Tom drive away, for what reason would Skylar's fingerprints and DNA be inside their vehicle, and now at one of his old buddy's house in Mexico? The math ain't mathin' here. So the detectives decided to go back over all of their interviews to find any holes in any of the stories. And that's when they realized that that notary who said that she had been present during all of those signings of the documents described Jackie as having curly brown hair. See, that was really strange because at the time, Jackie had short blonde hair.
I drove down to Newport and met Skylar and his wife and the couple. And I got there and I just notarized the documents.
This is morning. Hey, okay. Hi, I'm Keith Crowman. Nice to meet you. I'm asking for your help.
I know.
Are you part of these people's disappearance? Did you hurt these people
No.
that are missing? There's no doubt in your mind that 2 people signed these documents in front of you. Right now. See, you're hesitant. No, baloney. This is what I'm talking about. Listen to me real well. Tell me right now the truth. Those people that are missing signed those documents is what you're telling me. I don't believe you. You were hesitant to begin with. Tell me the truth, Kathleen. Tell me the truth.
I am.
So they decided to bring the notary back in for questioning, and this time she had a very different story to tell. It seems that she finally realized how serious everything actually was, and she admitted that she hadn't actually been present during the signing after all, and that Skylar had actually paid her to backdate the paperwork for the boat sale and for the power of attorney. She didn't know why or what it was for. She just knew that she was being paid extra to fudge the dates and say that she was there. So that's when they decided to send the paperwork off to a handwriting analyst so that they could determine the authenticity of the couple's signatures. While Tom's were definitely a match, there was something off about Jackie's. It appeared that she had written Hawk, but for some reason decided to leave off the S, which had been added on later. So did Jackie sign her name incorrectly as some sort of clue? Or was this done by accident? Whatever the reason, all of the evidence was starting to come together, and it all pointed to Skylar and Jennifer knowing way more than they were saying. When Skylar started to realize that he was becoming a suspect in Jackie and Tom's disappearance, police were notified by his probation officer that he actually requested permission to leave the country. They could tell that he was scrambling to dodge any more interrogations, so they decided to arrest him on the money laundering charge, just to keep him in custody to keep tabs on him. When they arrived at Jennifer's parents' house, she turned from that sweet, pregnant, innocent housewife to an entitled Karen in a split second. The detectives recall her telling her mom to shut up after answering a simple question. She said things like, "You have some nerve arresting my husband," and also told them that they weren't going to find anything related to the Hawks in their garage, but that too would turn out to be a lie. See, in their cluttered little makeshift apartment, detectives found Jackie and Tom's IDs. Jackie's ID photo was actually just how the notary described her, with curly brown hair, not her new short blonde style that she had been wearing recently. They also found the Hawks video camera and, strangely, a business card from an LAPD Interpol liaison, basically someone who works with international police for crimes committed in other countries. And when the detective contacted the liaison, he was shocked to hear that Skylar had been a person of interest in a murder investigation of an American citizen in Mexico a year before. The investigators knew that this couldn't just be a coincidence, so they decided to question another one of the witnesses again, a man by the name Alonzo, who they found out was actually an employee at the Seal Beach City Jail where Skylar had served his furlough sentence. Now, by that point, they didn't know exactly how any of them were involved, but they knew that whatever happened to Jackie and Tom wasn't good, and they told Alonzo that if he was honest, they would make sure to work out a deal for him. So Alonzo, who was only 20 years old and clearly pretty impressionable, took them up on their offer, and he had a lot to say. He told detectives that he and Skylar had actually developed a friendship at the jail, and they had been doing odd jobs together since his release. Alonzo said that one day during one of these jobs, Skylar approached him with a plan to make some serious money. However, he wasn't the only one that Skylar had asked for help. There was another man too, a 38-year-old man named John Fitzgerald Kennedy. One day, Skylar waited outside a liquor store in Long Beach looking for anyone with muscle who could help him with a special project. So he approached a man who ended up not being interested, but he was able to put Skylar in touch with someone that fit the bill for the job. So that's how Skylar came into contact with John, a former member of the Crips gang who had done his fair share of time behind bars before for gang-related crimes. Now, at first, Skylar only told John that he was going to be helping assist with a drug deal in Mexico, but that ended up not being the case. Apparently, right before they were set to head to the dock, Skylar told John and Alonzo that the Hawks were bad people who owed some people some money, and it was their job to get rid of them. So they would be getting a good cut of the hit money if they agreed to help him. When John asked why they needed 3 guys to take on 1 man and 1 woman, Skylar showed him a picture of Tom, who was clearly much more muscular than him or Alonzo. So John, being the muscle of the operation, made sense. On November 15th, Tom spoke to a friend while waiting for Skylar and said that a nice young kid was coming for a test cruise. When Skylar, Alonzo, and John arrived at the dock, Tom, being former military and law enforcement, knew that 3 guys showing up was a little bit sketchy, and it was clear that he was being apprehensive. But soon, a very pregnant Jennifer showed up, with her and Skylar's toddler as well, and Jackie quickly melted at the sight of their little girl. She started telling them all about her own grandbaby, which is why they were selling the boat in the first place. So soon after talking to the trio, Tom let his guard down, and that was when Skylar explained how he wanted to buy the boat for him, Jennifer, and their small children to live on. Jennifer explained to Jackie and to Tom that since she was so pregnant, she was feeling kind of sick, and she wouldn't be able to go on that test cruise, but she would be there when they all got back. So the 5 of them pulled away on the boat. Jennifer waved goodbye to them from the dock, all while holding her little girl in her arms. Unfortunately, Tom's first instincts had been correct, and as soon as they got far enough out to sea, the cruise quickly turned into a nightmare. Alonzo proceeded to tell a horrific account of what happened the rest of the night on the well-deserved yacht. Not long into the cruise, John told the group that he was feeling seasick, so he walked down into the cabin. He was taking a while, so Tom and Skylar decided to go and check on him. A few moments later, Alonzo and Jackie heard a noise, and Jackie said, "What's going on?" Alonzo said he knew at that point that he needed to hold her there, so he pulled out a taser and he zapped her. He placed handcuffs on Jackie and then forced her to walk down into the bathroom area. Skylar appeared and told Alonzo to go and get some tape from the engine room. John then brought in Tom, who they had ambushed and subdued with handcuffs as well. Jackie began screaming and asked them what was going on, and Tom started rubbing her hand and told her that it was all going to be okay. But he could not have been more wrong. The trio then brought Tom and Jackie into the kitchen. Skylar told them to sign and place their thumbprint on the power of attorney form, and then they had them recite off their birth dates, social security numbers, and their address, all as he typed the information into his laptop. Now apparently, periodically, Jennifer was calling Skylar to get updates on how the plan was going. Alonzo told the detectives that Skylar said, "I'm gonna let you go if you cooperate. If you don't, we're going to kill you here." He then headed toward the cockpit, and he entered the coordinates into the GPS to steer straight toward the deepest part of the ocean near Catalina Island. When he got back, he had Tom and Jackie sign the rest of the papers, and then led them to the deck of the boat. Next, Skylar ordered Alonzo to get some rope, and they proceeded to sit them down and tie them together face to face. Jackie's head was resting on Tom's chest. She was absolutely panicking at that point. But Tom reportedly told her, "It's okay. Whatever happens, we will be together." Skylar then went to disconnect one of the anchors from the bow of the boat, and he dragged the chain over to where Tom and Jackie were sitting. It was at that point that they started to understand what Skylar planned to do. Alonzo told the detectives that Jackie started begging for her life, and she said, "I have to see my grandchild one more time. I'm too young to die." All while Tom was continuing trying to comfort her. Skylar stood behind Tom and began fastening the chain of the anchor to the ropes that were tying them together. All of a sudden, in one last-ditch effort to save him and his wife, Tom lifted his right leg and kicked Skylar in the crotch, which sent him flying and crashing onto a deck chair. Jackie and Tom quickly stood up together in unison, but John rushed over and punched Tom in the head right near his temple, which nearly knocked him out completely. So Jackie used all of her strength to keep Tom standing, and in a sickening detail, Alonzo recounted that Skylar had a huge grin on his face as he picked up the anchor and threw it off the boat. It started yanking Tom and Jackie backwards, and John pushed them down so that they lost their footing, and this made them slide quickly toward the back of the boat. Jackie's head hit violently against the yacht wall right before the anchor ripped them both into the water. There was a brief struggle at the surface before both Tom and Jackie disappeared as they were pulled to the bottom of the freezing ocean floor. Skylar then turned the yacht around, called Jennifer to tell her that the deed was done, and the trio began looking around the boat for valuables. They got rid of any small personal items like photos, and while cleaning inside the cabin, Alonzo came across an envelope that was filled with cash, which they apparently thought they were going to just divide 3 ways, and that's what they did. While they made their way toward the shore, John was just casually relaxed with a beer and enjoyed some fishing off the back of the yacht, and Alonzo got rid of the tasers by tossing them into the ocean. Then, once they returned to the harbor, Skylar handed over the Hawk's cell phone to Alonzo and directed him to drive to Tijuana and make a phone call so that there would be a phone ping in Mexico. A few days later, Jennifer asked her dad, Steven, if he would help them clean their new boat, the well-deserved. She gave him a list of items that they needed, like bleach, trash bags, and Tums for her pregnancy nausea, which he purchased at Target before driving to the dock. Jennifer was excited to show her dad their new boat and made sure to reiterate that the purchase was legit. Jennifer and Skylar removed more of the Hawks' personal belongings, keeping some and donating others, and when they were ready to leave for the day, Skylar actually drove the Hawks' CRV back to their house. On November 19th, Jennifer deposited a little over $1,500 into her and Skylar's checking account. And around that same time, Skylar realized that he needed to get those documents notarized, and a friend hooked him up with a notary that he knew. So he paid that woman $2,000 to backdate the documents, and he gave her a rundown of the general story about being at the dock, just in case she were ever asked in the future. He also showed her the couple's IDs so that she would know what they looked like. Now, I guess for $2,000, she didn't feel the need to ask any more questions, and that was that. Now, while all of that was taking place, Tom and Jackie's family and friends were becoming increasingly worried about not hearing from them, which is when the investigation into their whereabouts began. After Jennifer spoke to Jim, Tom's brother, Skylar drove the couple's Honda CRV to give to his friend in Mexico, and Jennifer followed him so that she could drive him back to California. They really thought that they got away with the perfect crime, but what they didn't take into account was that Jackie and Tom were loved by so many people that any deviation in their behavior wasn't going to go unnoticed by their family and their friends. And nothing would have kept Jackie and Tom from their grandbaby and their sons, at least not if they could help it. And that was the unplanned variable in all of this. And also, when you get 2 people that you don't even know very well to help you carry out a sloppy murder, they more than likely will throw you overboard, so to speak, under the bus, overboard in this case, so that they can incriminate themselves as little as possible. And once again, that is exactly what happened here.
This is where actually Alonzo had to overpower Jackie. Sounds like Jackie's here, Alonzo's here, and then That's where Thomas Hawks, Skylar, and JFK are on the bottom. And Jackie hears the commotion. She looks down this way, and this is where Alonzo overpowers her. And this is actually where they bring them up one at a time to do all the paperwork signing. Skylar sits his skinny ass little right down here and is typing in all their info. And we've got the time that he's inputting all that stuff on the forensic on the computer, so we can know what time they're alive.
Skylar and Jennifer, John and Alonzo were all arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, and the notary was given immunity in order to testify against Skylar and Jennifer. Jennifer was also offered immunity if she would testify against her husband, since she technically wasn't present during the murders. But instead, she decided to stand by her man, which ended up not working out in her favor. Detective Byington said she's a witch. She knew that they had no money, and yet she went out to meet the people that were selling Skylar this yacht. She might as well have tied the anchor to those people and thrown them over too. Jennifer was ultimately found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 2 life terms in prison without the possibility of parole. She is currently being housed at Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla, California. On February 19, 2009, John was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder after less than 3 hours of deliberation. He was sentenced to death by lethal injection, and he's currently on death row at San Quentin State Prison. After testifying against Skylar, Jennifer, and John, Alonzo pleaded guilty to 2 counts of voluntary manslaughter, kidnapping, and robbery. On June 15, 2009, he was sentenced to 20 years and 4 months in prison with the possibility of parole. He's currently serving his sentence at Valley State Prison in Chowchilla, California. But we're not even done yet. There's a couple more twists in this case that are about to hit. So Skylar was actually indicted on other charges pertaining to the other murder investigation of the American citizen in Mexico. The victim in that case was named John Jarvie, and he had become friends with Skylar while they were both serving time in the Seal Beach City Jail. After they were both released, Skylar baited John to Mexico to complete a business deal. But instead, he slit his throat and robbed him of $50,000 and just left him for dead on the side of the highway. Skylar and Jennifer then used the money to pay off some of their bills and their debts. However, Skylar tried to blame John's death on his father, John Jacobson, who died later of AIDS. Initially, Skylar pleaded not guilty, but during the trial, he and his lawyer decided to concede that he was responsible for all 3 murders. However, his lawyer's strategy was to argue against the death penalty. And in order to gain sympathy from the court, Skylar's mother testified about the abuse that he endured as a child and spoke about a time that she almost lost him during a near-drowning incident in their pool. And in an incredible moment, the prosecutor asked her, "What is that like, ma'am, to watch someone you love drown? He wasn't tied to an anchor, correct?" On October 20th, 2008, Skylar was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder, and after several delayed sentencing hearings, on April 10th, 2009, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. He is currently on death row at San Quentin State Prison. Now, as I said, as if this case weren't shocking enough, there was actually a twist given by Skylar about the motive for the murders of Tom and Jackie. According to Skylar, the purpose of the murder was to get the money that he needed for hormone therapy. You see, Skylar claims to have scheduled a sex reassignment surgery for 2 weeks after the date of the murders, and had even already given a Colorado doctor a $500 deposit. While awaiting trial, Skylar, who now goes by she/her pronouns, actually got a hold of a dull razor blade and attempted to cut off her penis. Even though it was a failed attempt, once in prison, a federal judge approved Skylar's request for hormone therapy, and since then, she has fully transitioned, but has not yet been given permission to transfer to a woman's prison.
Skylar is now legally a woman. She has filed court papers and she has changed her name from Skylar Julius De Leon to Skylar Preciosa De Leon.
And it's worth remembering, I know I do, that even as we were interviewing him, Skylar was already planning how he could live with women in jail and not men. There's some talk about one of the reasons you wanted to do this, you wanted to be in the women's jail?
Yeah, I would rather be, because I get along a lot better with female than I do with guys. So if I'm going to be doing time, at least maybe I could do it with females than guys.
Over time, he was growing more and more effeminate looking. He asked for female underwear and a bra, and eventually, as the criminal justice system has been kind of changing with the culture, she was allowed to start wearing those things. And she wants to be called a she.
He's receiving hormones on the state tax dollars. I think he's petitioned to have the surgery done, but you shouldn't be rewarded for brutally murdering 3 people so you can get your way.
Since then, the two of them have since divorced.
So you've lost your family since you've been in this jail, it sounds like to me.
Yes.
How did that happen? Jen just stopped contacting you?
I guess it started with her stop writing, and then I guess her parents followed suit.
She was seeing you in jail regularly with the children, right?
Yes.
On a daily basis, or?
Yeah, well, every time that she could visit, send them a Christmas card and birthday cards, and I got back across their cards, like derogatory statements and stuff like that.
What kind of derogatory statements?
Your kids are not going to know you.
How do you feel about that?
Obviously, I don't feel good about that.
How is it that you want them to know you?
I don't know.
At the end of the day, the murder of Jackie and Tom Hawks was one of the most selfish and senseless acts of cruelty. They were two people who had so much love for each other and their family, and all they wanted to do was help take care of their precious grandson. But the greed of 4 individuals, primarily Skylar and Jennifer, made it so that they would never even have that chance. During her trial, Jennifer's family tried to say that she was a victim of Skylar's as well, and that she was manipulated and afraid to go against anything that her husband said. However, other people who have met her see her as the ringleader, and said that her desire to be rich was even more than Skylar's, who just wanted to get by for his family. Now, in my opinion, they are both equally evil and manipulative. Jennifer brought along her baby, knowing that seeing them as a happy young family would pull at Jackie and Tom's heartstrings and earn their trust. That is a calculated and manipulative move. That's not somebody, in my opinion, who is just along for the ride and brainwashed to do what her husband is asking her to do. Dealing with the anger and grief of losing their parents has been very difficult for Ryan and Matt Hawks, who now have to explain the love for their grandchildren through stories, videos, and pictures. After choosing careers to serve others in the medical industry and as a firefighter, neither of them had enough money to maintain their parents' yacht, so they decided to sell it. However, they both said that no one will ever love that boat as much as Jackie and Tom. Now, very unsettling. To this day, no remains of the couple have ever been recovered. So while they struggle with not being able to properly put their parents to rest, Ryan and Matt have vowed to keep the memory of their love for their family and friends and each other alive. And even though Skylar might never die by lethal injection, given the politics and things around it with just delays going on in California, Tom and Jackie's loved ones feel like they might have gotten justice, and that the sentences that their killers received are well-deserved. It's really just a truly heartbreaking case and another illustration so clearly that money doesn't equate happiness. It doesn't equate happiness. You can be as selfish and as greedy as you want, but that's not who's happy in the story. Look at how their life ended. And look at Tom and Jackie, who had everything in the world and were just full of love. And even though their life ended tragically, they are the winners in the situation as far as who lived a more fulfilled life. Money does not trump all. And again, it's just such a senseless murder, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Dark Chapters with me, Annie Elise. I will see you at the next one. And until then, stay safe. Bye.